FPL Game Week 2 is here. Another round of fixtures to hopefully go better than it did in Game Week 1 for a lot of us. In today's video, I'm going to take you through everything you need to know for Game Week 2. This is the complete guide. We'll be answering your questions. We'll be looking at players to buy. We'll be talking about my team. We'll answer your benching ranking decisions if you have those to make. A lot of those in defense this week. Everything you need to know. Game Week 2, complete guide. What is up, everyone? FPL Harry here. Before we dive in, 2,000 likes is the aim. Subscribe if you are new around here. And we are just a few subscribers away from that 200,000 mark. Thank you all so much for the support on the channel. First reminder of the video that it is a Friday night deadline, so please do not miss it. 6:30 p.m. UK time before West Ham versus Chelsea takes place tonight. We're going to dive in as we do in this video and just answer a few of the key questions this week. Now, we've had it break over the course of this week that Kai Havertz is likely to be out for a fair amount of time for Arsenal. Now, as a result, they have signed Eberechi Eze from Crystal Palace. We've had the here we go from Fabrizio Romano on that transfer. But really, I think the main knock-on impact that has is for Gyökeres up front. He's likely to be on penalties from what we've heard from news reporters and from Arteta saying that he's the best penalty taker at the club now. And his minutes are likely to increase slightly with Havertz being out, who did come on for him in Game Week 1. However, it is worth noting that Gyökeres doesn't feel like he's fully ready and up to speed for the start of the season, and they do have players like Marino and Trossard still at the club who can get minutes through the middle. I'm not expecting Gyökeres to be benched, I'm not expecting him not to be first choice, but I do think there are still chances that he plays 60-70 minutes often over the next couple of games until he is fully ready and up to speed, which might take a few weeks based on what we saw in Game Week 1. I do still like buying Gyökeres, and if you're on free hit or even on wildcard this week, I completely understand his inclusion. But when you do include the Arsenal fixtures from Game Week 3 onwards, if you don't own him in your team, I would urge a little bit of caution. And now, the main takeaway from all the content I imagine you're consuming if you're watching other people's videos or listening to podcasts or even on Twitter, is this is a week to roll a transfer. And I really do believe that that is the case. Unless you have something massively concerning in your team, you have a player in your starting 11 who you don't have cover for on the bench, is unlikely to start and is a long-term issue for more than just 1 week, then yes, you can make a transfer. However, if you've got someone like an Ezri Konsa, I don't think you need to sell him. I just play someone on your bench. If you've got a Jeremy Frimpong who looks like he's out for a couple of weeks, then yes, you can look to sell. If you've got a Marmoush who doesn't look like he's necessarily going to be starting for Manchester City, then yes, you can look to sell. But if all you're doing is maybe moving a player who blanked to a player who returned, like going João Pedro to Chris Wood, these are not transfers I think we need to make after just 1 week's worth of performances and 1 week's worth of information. If you can, look to roll your transfer this week, see how the second week goes. And if players like Palmer continue to blank, if Bruno continues to play deep, if João Pedro gets hooked off early after a blank again, then yes, we can look to make some transfers. But right now, unless you have essential things to do, I wouldn't look to make transfers, especially because a lot of the players you look to buy have already gone up in price, so you aren't really catching any more price changes as well. Then we're looking at a couple of other things. What do I think Eze at Arsenal will do? I think he'll get a lot of minutes off the left, but I'm not sure that will happen straight away. I do think we'll continue to see Martinelli and we might see Eze slowly introduced off the bench. He can also play in that sort of midfield role alongside Odegaard when they play a slightly easier opposition. We've sometimes seen Havertz play in midfield and Eze could definitely do that role. He is definitely not a buy in my team at the moment. Let's see how they get on. Let's see how slowly or quickly he embeds into that Arsenal team. It does have a slight knock-on impact with the Crystal Palace team. If you own someone like a Mateta or you own someone like a Sarr, I do expect it will impact the Crystal Palace attack a little bit going into the next couple of weeks, and they might not look as good, might not create quite as many chances when Eze is not in the team. And finally, to talk about bench boost, a lot of you are considering bench boost with the likes of double up on Burnley on your bench. You might have another defender that you quite like. The issue with a lot of them is you might have Mark Guiu as part of that bench boost. For me, he is probably enough to put me off. Now, I expect him to get minutes in Game Week 2, probably coming off the bench, but I definitely don't think he's going to start. I do think it would probably be enough to put me off, and it's enough to put me off playing my bench boost this week if you are considering it. Now, to talk about Captaincy does feel wide open this week. Haaland up against the Spurs side who have been improved defensively. Salah going away to Newcastle. Palmer being disappointing. And then you've got double Arsenal in my top 5. If you have an Arsenal player, I do think they should be your captain this week, even if it's Gyökeres. I know he's number 5 in my ranking, but if you've got him, it'd be really tempting to put the armband on him. But because so few people actually own Arsenal attackers for this week, only 15% of captaincies actually are going to be put on, based on the poll I put up on YouTube, on an Arsenal player going into game week 2. So outside of that, Haaland is next behind Bukayo Saka. He has the highest chance of a goal percentage chance in game week 2. He has the best form coming off the back of game week 1. He's predicted to score the most points as well. And actually, Manchester City are predicted to score close to the same number of goals as Arsenal are. Now, I think that's a little bit harsh on Spurs. I don't think the Spurs defense is as bad as maybe this data is beginning to lead to. Number 3, I've actually got Mo Salah, but interestingly, Liverpool are predicted to score less goals than Chelsea, Manchester City and Arsenal, but Salah is at the moment the most captained player. The poll put him at 43%, but this does feel quite low. Number 4 is going to be Cole Palmer. Goal scoring odds is the lowest of all the players that we've got here. Predicted points is also lower apart from Gyökeres, just based off his minutes. And a lot of people, based off what we saw in game week 1, have started to go off the captaincy on Cole Palmer. So overall, my ranking is Saka 1, Haaland 2, Salah 3, Palmer 4, Gyökeres 5. But if you think the boost to Gyökeres' minutes is enough with the Havertz injury, he could probably be as high as number 2. Talking about a few other things from the press conferences. So because, of course, it's a Friday evening deadline, a lot of the press conferences will take place on Friday after this video goes out. Just to cover a couple of things, though. Of course, Gravenberch for Liverpool is back in training, back available after his suspension. He is expected to come back in, and it is a little bit uncertain exactly who it's going to be that drops out. Mostly it's McAllister or Szoboszlai that is expected to drop out. However, some Liverpool fans have predicted that it still could be any of Wirtz, it could be Ekitike, it could be Gakpo, or all of these could play with Szoboszlai playing at right back and inverting into midfield like we've seen in some games in pre-season. Frimpong is ruled out until the international break. He will miss game week 2 and game week 3. He is likely to be back for game week 4, but Bradley could return for Liverpool on Monday night. That is probably enough for me to go and sell Frimpong if you own him. Not only is he out for the next couple of games, but when he comes back, there is Champions League and Bradley is back and available. So if you are looking to sell Frimpong, we'll talk about some defenders to buy in a moment, but the likes of the Arsenal or the Crystal Palace defence are probably my top options. Ampadu of Leeds is ruled out again until after the international break. This is a big knock-on impact for what we expect from them defensively. He is a mainstay in their team. He is a great leader and helps them defensively a lot. So I expect them to not look as strong without him compared to what they did on Monday night. And if you punted on Tosin for Chelsea, he is back available, having been left out as a precaution against Crystal Palace in game week 1. I expect him to come straight back in, probably in place of Josh Achupong. A few of you have asked me about him as a 4 million option, and now that Tosin is back, I wouldn't go anywhere near him. So looking at some players to buy, in goal, we don't actually have David Raya in here, but if you did want an Arsenal coverage and you had a goalkeeper spot open for whatever reason, I don't mind him. I just don't think it's the best use of him, and I don't love it as an Arsenal pick in general. I owned him a lot last season and it wasn't really worth it. So if you're owning an Arsenal pick, I'd probably look in defence. Sanchez at 5 million, Petrovic at 4.5 and Dubravka at 4 are my favourite the goalkeepers to own in all of those price points. Once we move into defence, the Arsenal ones top it, so I'm going with Gabriel and Saliba. There is enough risk at fullback that I wouldn't really own Lewis Skelly, I wouldn't own Calafiori. Now, at right back, Ben White hasn't been pictured in training, and if that is confirmed that he's going to be out for a while for whatever reason, we don't know at the moment, that would boost someone like Timber at a slightly cheaper price, but at the moment, I would go with Gabriel or Saliba. Then we move into Crystal Palace, and I think I've just about swayed to put Munoz back above Lacroix, although Lacroix's DEFCON means that he could be a better option than Munoz this season. And if you need a 4.5, Richards at Crystal Palace is absolutely one that you should be looking at. If you want someone slightly more attacking, I like the likes of Dorgu at Manchester United. Now, of course, they've got the Arsenal fixture out of the way from game week 1. Into midfield, Bukayo Saka is number 1 if you do have the money to go and buy him. Outside of that at Arsenal, I don't mind Odegaard, I don't mind Declan Rice, but I'm not sure the attacking returns are going to be quite as easy to come by for them as maybe we'd want. But if they look good, you can definitely go and have a look there. But the other issue with the Arsenal options is from game week 3 onwards, the fixtures start to look really poor again. So Saka is about the only one that I think I would reliably buy as a long-term pick. Semenyo is next in at a slightly cheaper price, up to 7.1. Then it is Reinders and Anderson. I was really impressed with both of these. And at 5.5, I wouldn't be surprised if we get to a point where there's a team structure which has both of these in for the long term. They've gone with both over Rodgers, although Rodgers has actually been linked to Spurs. I would be very surprised if that happens. I like the upcoming Villa fixtures, and I'm not put off by their performance in game week 1. Number 6 is Kudus of Spurs. Now, after game week 2, I think he'll be right up there as one of the best midfielders to own. It's just that Manchester City fixture this week that does knock him down slightly, that it's probably not the best week to go and buy him. And then we're moving up front. If you've got the money, of course, Erling Haaland is number 1. I do regret not going with him a little bit, particularly based off how some of my other players performed in the opening week. Let's see how he gets on this week, though. Outside of that, I like Mateta. I really like Crystal Palace. Now, I am, damping my expectations a little bit on him and what I expect from Crystal Palace now that it looks like Eze is going to leave. But I still like him at his price, and he's on all penalties now. No risk of that with Eze leaving. I still like Ollie Watkins. Brentford away this week is a good fixture. Slightly more expensive though, but I still prefer him to Gyökeres over the next few weeks. Number 4 is Strand Larsen. Now, he is my favourite of the cheaper forwards by far. The only thing I would add as a word of caution though, is Newcastle sound like they are going to try and bid for him if Alexander Isak is going to leave. Sounds like they are offering nearly as much as 60 million for him, which is a lot for Strand Larsen, but he is a good striker. We saw him score goals at Wolves, and I think he'd fit in very well at Newcastle. It doesn't sound like it's going to happen by game week 2, so if you own him, that's fine, but it might just be worth checking if you're looking to buy him this week. Then it's number 5 is Evan Nilsson. He's just slightly more expensive than Strand Larsen, but the Bournemouth fixtures look great from game week 2 onwards. And number 6, if you need a slightly cheaper one, Thiago, of course, on penalties at Brentford, looking like he's going to play 90 with Vissa leaving. Feels like just a reliable option at that price. In terms of benching rankings, you've got the goalkeepers on the left-hand side there. So Raya over Sanchez, Sanchez over Petrovic, Petrovic over Pickford, over Bruggen, Sells. And I do have Dubravka quite low down, just based off what I saw from them in game week 1. And I do think Sunderland will probably score in that game. Sarr, then Kelleher, then Alisson, and then Vicario. In terms of attackers, most of you have Mark Guiu or a King, so it doesn't really mean that you have much of a benching decision in terms of your attackers. But we've got João Pedro, Chris Wood, Wirtz, Sarr, Rodgers, Ilman and Dye, Dewsbury Hall, all high up there if you own them. If you've got Cucurella and Kudus, I'd probably be looking to start them as well. Then you've got Munoz, Tarkowski, Lacroix, Murillo, and the other Forest defenders. I'd probably be looking to start all of those. Aït-Nouri I like, despite playing against a Spurs team who look much improved. Dorgu because of his attacking threat, Tosin and Richards. Van Dijk against Newcastle, Pedro Porro's up there, Anderson, Esteve, and then Agbadou. Now, this Pedro Porro versus Anderson is a big debate that I'm seeing a lot of you ask. I think I'm still favouring just about with going with Porro over Anderson, although I do think it's very close. Esteve is next over Agbadou, then it is De Kuyper, then it is Diouf, Wan-Bissaka, Romero, and Van de Ven. The Spurs defenders outside of Porro, I'm not sure are worth playing this week. Looking at the projections from Rob T going into this week, there are a few teams that are predicted to do very well in terms of goals. Manchester City and Arsenal, the key standouts. Outside of that, when you look at clean sheets, Arsenal are really the only banker that is hitting that 40% threshold. So do not worry if your defense doesn't look quite as strong this week. If you're playing a Forest defender, you've got a Burnley defender, you've got a Spurs defender against Man City, I think it's absolutely fine. I wouldn't worry because Arsenal are the only team that really have a high chance of a clean sheet. Maybe you can start to add Chelsea in there at 36%, but a lot of us own Sanchez anyway. So outside of Arsenal, clean sheets are really difficult to predict this week. And goals scored, Arsenal, Manchester City high up there. You've got Liverpool, you've got Bournemouth, and you've got Chelsea. But even then, a lot of those are actually falling below the 2-goal projected mark. Some of them only just. But even that being said, it is quite a difficult game with a lot of the teams we normally look to back playing away from home in game week 2, which can make it a little bit more difficult to predict. So based off those defender ranking benching decisions I put up earlier, I have made a slight change to my team with Anderson coming in for Esteve. I'm just not that keen on Burnley. This is still a decision I'm wondering about, and it does mean that I'm playing Anderson up against Bruno Fernandes, which I don't love. And I know a lot of people are considering playing a Burnley defender this week, but it's really that benching decision that I'm wondering. It could be Pedro Porro that drops out. It could be Anderson. It could be Esteve. I think I'll probably play Williams given that Palace play on Thursday evening and are putting out a reasonably full strength lineup. So I'm still going back and forth with the benching ranking, and I will, of course, discuss that on the deadline stream tonight. Your second reminder, it is a Friday evening deadline. I'm still worried about Palmer and his positioning and his output. I've got double Chelsea in my team as well. I've got double Aston Villa. So it does mean the captaincy armband is staying on Mo Salah, and I do not plan on moving that. And that is all for the Game Week 2 complete guide. A reminder again, it is a Friday evening deadline. I will be live on YouTube from 4:30 p.m. until 6:30 p.m. UK time. The 2 hours building up to the deadline, answering all of your questions, deciding which of my defenders I'm going to play, as it's giving me a right headache this week. Any questions that you haven't had answered in this complete guide or any of my videos this week, drop them in the comments on this video. I'll answer as many as I can. If not, please do bring them to the deadline stream this evening, and I will do my best to answer them there as well. Thank you all for watching. 2,000 likes is the aim. Fingers crossed we can hit 200k subscribers as well by the deadline. So if you haven't subscribed, please do like before you go, and I'll be back again very soon.